Welcome back to Ted Draws Dungeons. Today, I'm working on a commission piece that involves 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper, with each square being a 10 by 10. And there's going to be 4 of these that make up one level. So they're all going to interconnect. And in the case of this one, it connects from this page toward the left to the next page. And as you can see, a lot of this dungeon is collapsed. A lot of it's destroyed. And what I want to focus on today is how I make this destroyed look. It really starts with try to picture blocks that fall down through the roof. In this case, it's underneath the mountain, so it's pieces of the mountain, chunks of the mountain. What I did is, you can see, I'm kind of going out to a line that I drew in this round room, and that's where the edge of the rubble comes down. And then what we do is we build on top of those chunks, and we give it a little bit of subtle shading and some structure. Right now I'm working on some stippling that goes around the edges. We want it to be kind of a combination of thicker and thinner, and then we want to outline the shape of the hallways and the shapes of the rooms. But what we don't want to happen is, we don't want that outline to be a straight line, because if it looks like a straight line, at least in this old school kind of technique, it's just going to be a little bit too perfect. So what I do is, on that stippling, I work off the straight line, that dark edge, and I try to break it up. And I do this just by working it over and over. And you can rework it too much. You can go too far. And you'll see that there are actually parts of this video where I think I went a little bit too far. And that's another thing to kind of mention. Beneath this sheet of paper, I have another sheet of paper, because it's not that you're going to pierce the paper, but you have the potential of bleeding through, and it just saves you some paper. And it's not just the bleed through, it's the indentations from the stippling can appear on the next sheet of paper, and then it makes it difficult to kind of get rid of that kind of ghost effect on that sheet of paper. So I always just slip one blank sheet of paper underneath the one that I'm working on, just to act as kind of a cushion. And here you can see where I'm going closer. I'm trying to break up that straight edge. This takes a while, but that's the fun of doing it. There are a lot of quicker ways to do this. Very few people, I don't want to say have the patience, but want to maybe take the time to do it this way. I like the look. It's not something I developed all by myself. I have lots of other people to thank. But I thought of, originally I used to say dryer lint, but now I think it's more like ballast. Rubble. It's different sized bits of rubble, and it just makes everything look chaotically organized, if that makes any sense at all. But I like it. It's therapeutic just to sit there and think think about different ways you can make the dungeon better, how you can improve it, what each room really is functioning for, how it fits into the design of the dungeon. And as you can see, I don't really ever go in with a preconceived notion on what every dungeon exactly is. I'm doing a piece of art. You can find on DriveThruRPG the Dungeon in a Day books. I try to leave a lot of room for the GM to make decisions. Here you can see I'm going back into the room now, and if you can imagine chunks of a ceiling falling down in dirt and earth and rock and stone, it's going to kind of come down and pile up in one area more than the other area, and then it's going to spread. Although I'm showing the general shape of the room, I want pieces of this to be broken where there's potentially even holes that go deeper. That's easily accomplished. We just go right over the original boulders that we drew. And you don't think about the boulders. You just think about what that hole in the ground would look like, or that hole in the wall, or maybe it's not even like a hole, it's just shaded darker because it goes down a little bit deeper. And what this really does is it breaks up what was a circle with a bunch of rubble drawn into it and really shows the destruction. It shows the gaps and makes it a little bit more hazardous for the adventurers. And then we fill this in with a fine stippling. And that stippling just adds to the effect of dirt and debris and dust and other things that get all into the room. We don't want to envelop the room with stippling, because what that does is it's overkill, and then it doesn't look, more artistic. And it doesn't have to be an exact representation of how it's not a case study in how rooms collapse. This is a visual thing, and it's a piece of art. Old school art it was always done with the kind of the aesthetics in mind. The biggest thing that I could pass on if anyone were to ask me is to, number one, have fun. Number two, take your time. And number three, concentrate more on having it just look cool. Not everything has to function. The other day, there was a person who had just come out and started drawing dungeons themselves, and it was kind of a basic look, and it was just drawn on a sheet of paper, and he asked for feedback, and someone had commented, and in good constructive criticism, gave him all kinds of pointers on what to do. But I wanted to make sure and throw in my 2 cents just to say, hey man, this looks cool. Keep up the good work. And the person liked my comment, and I think that's the biggest thing you can do too. And I know you know what I'm talking about. In this industry a lot, we have a tendency to show off a little how long we've been playing, and how great a characters we create in these adventures that we have, and I'm the best DM, or I'm the best GM, and I think that's kind of that can be a negative thing. I always remind myself of Stefan Pokorny, who has been in this industry for a long time and is a very theatrical dungeon master and a brilliant sculptor. And he's always the nicest guy, though. He's always very kind to people, and he's always very accommodating and very complimentary of what others are doing. And You know, I'm sure, of course, a part of that is a public side to him. But I've met Stefan in person, hung out with him, and he's a good guy. And I think we need more of that. We need a lot more of that. We need a lot more understanding in this industry, and I think you all know what I'm talking about there too. That we can be inclusive and be nice and kind to each other, and still, you know, talk some smack. But I think the same thing can be said about maps. Every style is different. Every map is different. Every look is different. If they were all the same, it'd be boring. I don't consider myself nearly as good as some other artists who do some really fantastic and fabulous work. And sometimes I think that some of the stuff that I create doesn't look nice. And then ironically, it seems to be those ones sometimes where people are blown away. Oh, this is incredible. This is nice. And I'm so flattered by that. Here you can see that more of a ballast look that I was talking about. You can see where I have kind of an edge that I'm working out toward. And there's that dark edge to the left, and it goes out and goes lighter. And I'm breaking that up by putting just black dots basically here and there to, you know, to show that everything's not going to be neat and organized. And of course, this is nothing. It's not the way, you know, the dungeon walls don't have a neat pile of boulders on the other side like this. This is for the eye. This is just the aesthetics. But I like this look. I don't know, I just like it. I like the randomness to it and the organization to it at the same time. And yeah, so here you can see I'm breaking up that dark line because I don't want that to be perfectly straight. I want that to show that it blends in. Isn't this relaxing? I think it is. I'm a little weird though. I like making videos like these, and I don't know, it probably sounds strange, but I like watching my own videos. I look back and I think, wow, what was I thinking when I put this together? And most of the time I'm thinking about what the dungeon really looks like. Like there's nothing in here right now because this is just blank. But how was it shaped? Who built it? Why was the dungeon made? And you know, I use the term dungeon. It could be anything. Could be a fort, could be a keep, could be a castle, could be a den, could be a cave. Here's a good shot of just how you can break up the round chunks. And by using colored in black spots, I'm giving shadow. I'm also showing different style of it. And then here by drawing in, we're showing gaps. We're showing more broken pieces of floor that are missing. And it's really simple. There's no design to it. I mean, I start out with round shapes, sort of round shapes, that create the boulder look. And then I add some darker stuff over it. And then I start just kind of scratching in some holes in the floor. Apparently that hole wasn't big enough. I had to make it bigger. I'm trying to do the voiceovers now, so I'm kind of experiencing my own dungeon drawing technique. You're seeing the video, and this works out pretty cool because I think I can get some better audio, and then I also get to kind of, you know, look back and kind of explain things a little bit more thoroughly. Now here we're going in with the stippling. You can see I just originally drew jagged lines around the edges because I don't want it to be completely straight. You always want to kind of work on that random, organized chaos look. At least that's my style. And again, there's lots of other styles out there, lots of really, really beautiful artistic styles. This is just mine. And yeah, I recommend finding your own. Kind of take everything you can find, look at everything you can out there, and just make something your own. That's the beauty of this, is you don't really want to copy. You want to emulate to a certain degree, but you want to adapt and you want to evolve and make a style something that's yours. And a good thing too is you don't want, I don't know, this is just my opinion, I wasn't intentionally trying to develop any kind of a style myself. I was more focused on having fun, and eventually some things stuck and some things didn't. And I think the best way is to just show it. And you know, I'm trying to get in as close as I can now with my camera, just so you know the work speaks for itself. With this video, we're not going to get much further than this, but this is going to be a fun dungeon to explore because there's so many different rooms and different aspects to it. Now, for the first time, I'm incorporating round rooms. And you know, I pencil in those circular rooms with the compass, and then I go back through with the ink. And in some cases, I'm starting to use a straight edge now, only because, you know, on a commission piece, I don't ever want anything to look perfect, but like a computer spit it out. I try to take every room, sometimes not all the hallways, because you can always just say, as a dungeon master, well, you're in a long hallway that goes 40 feet down and makes a bend to the left, and there's no reason really to have a big map for that. But what I do is I take all the rooms into Photoshop and I isolate them, and then I digitize them. And I always include the original art, so the original dungeon is in there for the dungeon master, and every broken out room is something they can use as handouts. And I'm experimenting with the printed version of those books too. So, in a sense, a dungeon master could get their own magical tome, blank and customized. And everything is in one book. And then they could just photocopy the pages that they want to give out as handouts. I think that's going to work really well. I'm waiting. Pretty soon I should have my first printed copy of Dungeon in a Day Volume 1 in the mail. And I'm going to check it out. I'm going to really scrutinize it, make sure it looks good. And then, you know, potentially that's something that's going to go for sale. So here's just an overshot of the progress I'm making. You can see I don't have all the tiles in yet, but I'm loving this look. I'm liking it a lot. But you guys let me know what you think. And please like and subscribe if you like these videos. And you know, you can ring that bell. That's always a good way to get notifications. We're a small community, but we're growing. Thank you guys for being here, and I'll see you next week.